In this presentation or lecture, our focus will be twofold. First, elect and analyze the requirements effectively, and then second, to understand how to orient ourselves within the new code base. Now we will move on the next slide, which is about the motivation lecture goal. So in this we will learn about how to effectively gather and analysis requirement from stakeholders and understood the process of navigating and understanding the new code base. Now we'll move on the next slide, which is about motivation and for the requirement analysis. For the motivation, we will see here, first of all, to improve our project success rate, we must recognize that many failures stem from the issues with the requirements gathering, such as incomplete or misunderstood requirement. A systematic approach to requirements engineering can help us to avoid these pitfalls, like as here, right here, project failures and systematic approach. For the systematic approach, we need to ensure the requirements engineering can help them mitigate these issues. Now we will study about what are the requirement steps. So for the requirement step, we will continue building the foundation of the requirement engineering with the elicitation analysis in this lecture, followed by modeling in the future sessions. So first of all, the elicitation analysis, modeling and specification. So for this elicitation analysis we will study in the current lecture, and the modeling we will see in the future lecture, and specification also covered in the previous lectures. So now we will see the elicitation analysis in more detail. So first of all, we will study about the heavyweight and lightweight approaches. So the heavyweight, understanding the difference between the heavyweight and light approaches is very essential. While heavyweight emphasize throughout the upgrade documentation, and while in the lightweight practices allow this flexibility and iterative development, especially important in agile methodologies. So as we in the previous lecture saw that in the heavyweight the document formal specifications before the design is compulsory, and in the development and for the lightweight, develop a relevant requirement during sprints like phases, but establish the system level requirements upfront. Avoid this formal specification and unless necessary, and models and prototypes may be the clearer. Now move on the next slide, which is about the stories and scenarios. Instead of diving directly into the formal specifications, using the scenarios allow the both developers and client to understand the system requirements in a relatable and easy and simple way. Scenarios then provide a detailed picture of the user interaction. So avoid starting with the then the stories use to bridge understand between the client and developer, while the scenarios shows the detail of the interaction with the system. Now we will move on the next slide, which is about the usage of the scenarios. So for the usage of the scenarios are beneficial for illustrating user interaction with the system, and then they should specify the purpose of action and identify the user and detail assumptions, helping clarify the both functional and potential issues. So as the user viewpoint here written, like illustrate interaction, and from the user perspective, requirement clarification, like it clarify the requirement and of nominal behaviors, and scenarios components like use the in which we include the purpose, user and assumptions, and then so on the steps. Now we will see about the how the user how develop the scenarios with the client. So for this, first of all, come here the viewpoint. When developing the scenarios with the client, we beginning by identifying the key points, clarifying essential details about the system, purpose, and its users. For instance, consider an online exam system as our project goal. So, as you can see, the viewpoint, purpose, actor, and equipment. Choose a viewpoint and clarify the purpose. We need to firstly choose the viewpoint of the purpose of the product or of the software, and then clarify the purpose of this, and then select the actors and then equipment. Ask question to gather the detailed information. And as we take the example, we need to develop, like we have a project to develop the an online exam systems. Now we will move on the next slide, which is about the example scenarios, which is actually help for the student. So, like in this example, we see a scenario how we can flesh out the detail. Here, like Alice represents a typical student, and understanding her journey through the system will clarify the requirements. And what's actually the purpose of this? Describe how the students use the exam system. Then a typical user. For this user, a typical student like Alice and CS senior, and the equipments like personal laptop using the Firefox. Now I'll move on the next slide, which is about, and in this we will see how the step in the Alice scenarios, like describe detailed key instructions like authentication in the exam selection, questions answering, saving the progress, and consider the assumptions like question, how does Alice know which URL to visit, and what if she submit without answering every questions. Now we will see here like how we can explain or understand and the modeling and orientation. So in the next lecture we will see, for now, see the requirement modeling. For now, it's crucial to formalize ourselves with the product document annotations, and this include the quick start guide and architecture overviews that help in navigating in the code base. Now we will see, in this also we see the code base orientation. Orientation in the new code base require understanding how build and test the product, learn to locate every execution begin, and identify the key terms that may aid your exploration. And also we can see here, finally, it's essential not to get overwhelmed by the complexity of a new code base. Instead, aim to build working model that allows you to understand the common operations and interactions within the system. So here in this we'll see, in this lecture we saw the importance of equipments, elicitation, and clear scenarios, and familiarity with the code base aid in the effective development. And we will also explore more deeply in the next coming lectures. So stay tuned.